Kunja Bihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Chana Balaba Girivaradari Gopi Chana Balaba Girivaradari Gopi Chana Balaba Girivaradari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Jamunadira Vanachari Jamunadira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Chana Balaba Girivaradari Gopi Chana Balaba Girivaradari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Jamunadira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Damodarastakam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Okay, so we are continuing in the Damodarastakam with the Digdarshini Tika, which is the commentary of Sanatana Goswami. And last week, we were still on verse number 3, Tidrik Swalila Virananda Kunde Swagosam Nimajantam Akyapayantam. So we stopped around Akyapayantam Tadiyesita Yesu. So we'll finish that and then go on to the 4th and maybe the 5th verses today. So, the 3rd verse of the Damodarastakam says, by such childhood pastimes as this, he, meaning Krishna, is drowning the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy, and is revealing to those devotees who are absorbed in knowledge of his supreme majesty and opulence that he is only conquered by devotees whose pure love is imbued with intimacy, and is free from all conceptions of awe and reverence. With great love, I again offer my obeisances to Lord Damodar hundreds and hundreds of times. So, this verse is talking about the pools of ecstasy, and for those devotees who are absorbed in knowledge of Krishna's supreme majesty and opulence. But then we're a little surprised when it says, but Krishna is only conquered by devotees whose pure love is imbued with intimacy and is free from all conceptions of awe and reverence. So, when it says Swagosham Nimajantam Akyapayantam, so it says, by such childhood pastimes as this, Krishna is drowning the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy. So Satyavata Muni, who is the author of the Damodarastakam, states that Sri Krishna drowns, or Sri Krishna is drowning the inhabitants of Gokula. So drowning means Nimajanantam, and the inhabitants of Gokula are Swagosam. So Gosa means to loudly proclaim the glory of something. So either Krishna is proclaiming his own glory or the glory of his friends, the Gopas and the Gopis. So in this mood, he's personally drowning everybody in pools of bliss. So, what is so special about the gopas and the gopis? They're completely focused on Krishna. They have no other desire in their mind. They don't even desire anything for themselves. Their only desire is to please Krishna. So, this is a glorious thing. And Krishna's only desire is to please his devotees. So here we have subordinate lover and the supreme lover. And they're both mutually interested in each other exclusively. So when you see someone who completely loves you, with no reservation, with no hesitation, just completely loves you, it is overwhelming. I've seen this many times. Someone is fondly speaking about a relative. It could be an uncle, it could be an auntie, it could be their mother or their father, and they remember endearing moments. Sometimes they have tears in their eyes, and they cry. Not because of suffering, but because of bliss. And they remember the unfeathered and limitless love that was showered on them in their youth by their mother or grandmother or somebody. That's a defining moment in their life. So it's a glorious thing. And now, if it's mutual, in other words, Krishna has unalloyed love for his pure devotees, especially the gopas and the gopis, and the gopas and the gopis have unlimited love and unbounded love for Krishna, then they're drowned in pools of bliss, of transcendental bliss. It's a glorious, glorious thing. So, then it says, Akya payantam tadiyesita gesu bhakta jitatmam. And this is revealing to those devotees who are absorbed in knowledge of Krishna's supreme majesty and opulence. Well, what is revealing? It's this absolute love that's being manifested. So Krishna is making it known, in other words, Akya Payantam, that he is willingly becoming controlled by his bhaktas alone, who serve with pure devotion. So at this point, Krishna is completely absorbed in serving his devotees. Well, that means that he's subordinating himself to the devotees that have this unalloyed love for him. So this brings up a serious question. Can God be controlled by his devotee? Well, this Damodarastakam prayer says yes. Now, is this something that the devotees think of in Vaikuntha? No. They can't imagine that Lord Narayana can be subordinate to them and voluntarily subordinate himself. They're worshiping the Lord with awe and reverence. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just like there's such a thing as sugar that is sweet, and other sugar that is sweeter, and other sugar that is sweetest. So there are different tastes or rasas in love. And now we see that why the spiritual world is dynamic. It is not static. Because there is progressive states of love, and they are very powerful. It's like a very powerful magnet. In the Somnath Temple in Gujarat, when it was conquered by Muhammad Ghazni, he had heard that there is a gigantic Shila or Shiva Lingam that's floating in the air. And it's made out of solid gold, and it was big. So when they conquered the temple, Somnath, Muhammad was just looking at that, and it was just in the air. And there was nothing holding it. And he couldn't believe it. So he told some of his soldiers to climb up on the roof above that linga that was apparently in the air, and he wanted to be sure that it was just hanging there, not by any ropes or any construction. It was actually in the air. And so he said, do something, break the roof above it. And as he started breaking the roof above it, sort of moved, tilted a little bit. Well, they finally realized that what was holding in the Shiva Linga, this gold Shiva Linga, was a magnet, a gigantic magnet that was under the roof. And when they broke through the roof, and then they sort of broke into the magnet, the Shila fell down. The Shiva Linga fell down, and they took it. They stole it. They came to get the gold, and they stole it at that point. So this attraction to the Lord, and the Lord's attraction to the love of his devotees, is like a magnetic pull, a magnetic force. And the mind of the Lord and the mind of the devotees are completely attracted to each other, and they can't get the devotees can't get the Lord out of their mind, and the Lord can't get his devotees out of his mind. This is a very special thing. It's a very intense state of love. And at that point, the Lord is willing to subordinate himself to his devotees. Not in Vaikuntha. This is only in Goloka. And so, Krishna is never controlled. The word for that in Sanskrit is jitatvam. By those who, Aishwarya Jnana, are inclined to worship the Lord while considering his supreme position and opulence. Tadya isita gesu. Yeah, so Narayana in Vaikuntha is, and even the worship of Narayana in the material world, like we see the worship of Balaji, the worship of Ranganath, the worship of Padmanabha, the worship of Varadaraj. It's an extreme level of opulence. In the Padmanabha temple, and I think it's in Kerala, isn't it? Yeah. Some years ago, they discovered in a hidden vault below the temple an unbelievable amount of gold, pure gold, that's worth hundreds and billions of dollars. Do you remember that? Yeah. This is how wealthy India was. This is how wealthy. And of course, they had to hide it because they didn't want the Muslims to get it. They didn't want the government to get it. It's probably, people usually think Tirupati is the richest temple in the world, but Padmanabha, with their discovery of that gold, I don't know if it surpassed Tirupati, but certainly it was an extremely wealthy temple, but it was being hidden because it attracts dacoits and low-class people. So that's worship with extreme opulence. But here it's saying that Krishna is vulnerable to worship when the devotees don't worship him in awe and reverence, but they worship him with extreme intimacy. But that's only possible in Goloka. It's not possible in Vaikuntha. And then this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:11-9 says, before that, verse 10:11-7 says, if you dance, then we will give you a sweet. By these words, or by clapping their hands, the elder gopis sometimes induced Sri Krishna to dance. Thus, Bhagavan Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, danced just like an ordinary child. Sometimes they made him sing, and he therefore sang just like a bewildered innocent boy. In this way, he came under the control of the cowherd women, exactly like a wooden puppet on strings. Sometimes his relatives would order him to bring their shoes, chair, or measuring pot, but if he was unable to lift the article called for, he would grasp it firmly and just to please his dear relatives, flap his elbows again and again to demonstrate his childish strength. So this is where we stopped last week. Right? And then it says, on the basis of these conclusions of the Bhagavatam, is further stated, Swagosam means all the living beings dwelling in Gokula. Ananda Kunde Nimajantam. He immersed them in a deep pool brimming with liquid bliss mellows. Anandarasa Maya Gabirajala. Therefore, it is declared in the Bhagavatam verse quoted above, Swanam Pritim Samudvahan. By these actions, Krishna stimulated the complete love of his own dearmost relatives, called Pritis. And furthermore, the word Gosha additionally means the loud proclamation of his glory. Similarly, the word Swa also connotes either Swasya or Swanam, that either his glory or the glory of the Gopas and Gopis is proclaimed by these pastimes. In this mood, he personally drowned them in pools of bliss, Ananda Kunde Nimajantam, and they experienced a very special excellence of supreme happiness, Paramasuka. Okay. Then it says, Tadiyesita Gesu, to those who are absorbed in knowledge of his supreme majesty and opulence, which is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:11-9 by Sanatana Goswami. Krishna is only controlled by his loving servants in Vraja, the Madhurya Rasa. So in other words, he's saying here that, but he's saying it in somewhat a positive way. But the negative way, if you say the same thing, means that he's not interested at all in people worshiping him with awe and reverence, which is the case in Vaikuntha. But he is willing to become submissive to his servants who are attached to bhakti. Now, what is bhakti about? Bhakti yoga or bhakti. It's about serving Krishna with humility and accepting him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Bhakta as the eternal subordinate servant of the Lord. So he says he has fully, and so he says it in a positive way, he has fully displaced his quality. He says, I willingly become submissive to the control of my servants who are attached to bhakti, but I will never submit myself to those fond of jnana. This is confirmed in the Bhagavatam 10:11-9. So there are the impersonalists, and there are the jnanis, and they are the yogis. So the impersonalists, they do not accept the individuality of Krishna or Narayana. They only think that the ultimate destination is the Brahman, effulgence coming from the body of Krishna, but they deny Krishna's existence as a person. And the yogis, they are interested in opulences, the 8 cities. If they can master 1, 2, 3, 4 of those cities, or if they master all of them, they become extremely opulent and powerful. And the Jnanis, they want to merge into that effulgence of the Lord, and by denying their own individuality and the individuality of Krishna. But the devotees, the bhaktas, they don't deny their own individuality, and they don't deny Krishna's individuality, but they recognize that they are subordinate to Krishna eternally, and that's their constitutional position. And therefore, service to Krishna is their real activity in life, and service without attachment to anything material, but attached only to pleasing the Lord, is the mindset of the devotee. Well, this type of unalloyed love, Krishna is saying here, makes him willingly submissive to the control of his servants who are attached to bhakti or serving him with love and devotion. But he will never submit himself to those who are fond of jnana, or meaning who are impersonalists. And then this verse 10:11:9 says, Bhagavan Sri Krishna has proclaimed to the bhaktas of the universe who are fond of Aishwarya Jnana that he is fully submissive only to his own pure devotees. So Krishna is not submissive at all to the Mayavadis or the impersonalists who want to merge into his effulgence. And now he's saying that he's not fond of the Aishwarya Jnanis, those who are worshipping him due to his opulence. But he is submissive only to his pure devotees who have no attachment to their body, no attachment to any extension of the body, which would include wealth, it would include family, ethnicity, nationality, all those things. He is completely submissive to his devotees who are unalloyed in their love for him and are willing to do anything to please the Lord. So, therefore, the meaning of this Bhagavatam verse 10:11:9 is that the word in this verse, tad vidam, indicates devotees who are attached to Bhagavat Aishwarya Jnana, or yet another meaning is tadiyanam, suggests that the Lord displays his quality of submission to his devotees only, in front of those who are already aware of the prabhava, or power, of his most dear favorite devotees. So Krishna is only controlled by his loving servants in Vraja, or in Vrindavan, Goloka. Not for those on the path of Aishwarya, meaning opulence, Aishwarya Bhakti, or Jnanis and Jnana Mishra. So the Jnanis are ones who reject the material world and want to merge into the effulgence of the Lord. And the Jnana Mishra Bhakti is Bhakti that's mixed with Jnana. So what would be an example of Jnana Mishra Bhakti? It would be a devotee who is still enamored by the pursuit of Jnana, but yet does perform some devotional service also. So that does not attract Krishna's interest. So another meaning is that Sri Krishna only reveals that he is willingly controlled by his loving devotees only to those who have proper knowledge of such beloved devotees' exalted position. So another aspect is that someone who recognizes the unique position of pure devotees who are serving the Lord with no material motive, simply offering their love and devotion to the Lord, he also favors such persons. Because there's a verse in the Vedas, let me see if I can find it. Tadiyanam Samachara. Parvati asks Krishna, who is the best person to worship? And Krishna says, oh, the greatest person is Lord Vishnu. But even above that is anything in relationship with the Lord, such as Govardhan, Parvat, or the Lord's pure devotee. So therefore, anything in relationship with the Lord, well, that's what this is saying also, that those, he's controlled by his loving devotees only to those who have proper knowledge of such beloved devotees' exalted position. So that was what Lord Shiva revealed to Parvati, that although worship of Vishnu is highest worship, even above that is worshiping the devotee who's fully dedicated to the Lord, even above that. So that's what's being said here in this Tadi Yesita Gesu, part of the third mantra, third prayer. So bhakti can't be explained to those who do not know the exalted glories of the Vaishnavas. So, therefore, Prabhupada has given this example: love my dog, and I will love you. Right? So the dog is the servant of the master. So someone who loves the dog, then the master will love the dog lover, because the dog is so dear to him. So in the same way, one who loves and serves the Vaishnava, pure devotee of Lord Krishna, and Krishna loves that person who is worshiping his devotee, even more than if they worship him, because the devotee has sacrificed everything to serve Krishna. So therefore, he's very affectionate to Prahlad Maharaj, to Dhruva Maharaj, and other personalities like this, who have given everything, their whole life, to the Lord and depend completely on the Lord. So bhakti cannot be explained to those who don't know the exalted glories of the Vaishnavas. Very important point. Huh?
I found the verse where it says that worshipping the devotee of the Lord, Bhakta Puja.
Go ahead, read it. Where is it from? Huh? So the verse I was talking about is Aradhananam sarve sam Vishnu Aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samachara. This is Padma Purana. Lord Padmavati is asking her husband, who is the best person to worship? So Lord Shiva told goddess Durga, my dear Devi, although the Vedas mention worship of demigods, the worship of Lord Vishnu is topmost and ultimately recommended. However, above worship of Lord Vishnu is the rendering of service to Vaishnavas who are related to Lord Vishnu. And then also, my dear Lord Shiva again says, my dear Parvati, one who claims to be my devotee is not so. Only a person who claims to be the devotee of my devotee is actually my devotee. So this is what is being said here in this third verse of the Damodarastakam also. Did you find the verse you were looking for?
This one I was displaying.
Oh, okay. What verses?
This is
You want to lower it?
11, 19,
11, 19. You keep going. Keep scroll. Okay, so it's saying. Let me read the translation then.
you want to read the translation now?
What?
You want to read the translation?
Yeah. So it says, firm faith. Okay, is it in the purport or is it in the translation?
In the translation.
Yeah, firm faith in the blissful narrations of my pastimes, constant chanting of my glories, unwavering attachment to ceremonial worship of me, praising me through beautiful hymns, great respect for my devotional service, offering obeisances with the entire body, performing first-class worship of my devotees, consciousness of me in all living entities, offering ordinary bodily activities in my devotional service, use of words to describe my qualities. So the point he's making is performing first-class worship of my devotees. There it is right there. And in the end he says, these constitute actual religious principles by which those human beings who have actually surrendered themselves to me automatically develop love for me. What other purpose or goal could remain for my devotee? Okay, so now we see the exalted position of pure devotee of the Lord. So, then going further, there's more meanings here in the in this verse. That is, in which verse? We're talking about the Damodar verse. That is, the word premata denotes with excellence, and of love and devotion. So this is the quality that attracts Krishna, the excellence of love and devotion. And it makes him vulnerable. Vulnerable means it's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing. It makes him endeared to the devotee. Therefore, there's a verse that also says that devotee is always remembering Krishna, and Krishna is always remembering the devotee. Therefore, also in the Ishopanishad it says that even if the devotee forgets the Lord at the moment of death, the Lord never forgets the service that that devotee has rendered. It's a very important verse also, because maybe because of the position of the health of the body of the devotee at the moment of death, he cannot remember the Lord. You know, he might be sedated, or he might be in such pain and that he can't remember the Lord. But the Lord never forgets the service that the devotee has done for him. So that means that devotional service is the pathway to connecting to the Lord. And that's why it's called bhakti yoga. Yoga means connecting to the Lord. And the most significant way of connecting to the Lord is through bhakti, pure devotion and love. So this last line of the verse 3 is Punak prematas tam sattavritti vande. With great love, I again offer my obeisances to Lord Damodar hundreds and hundreds of times. So Sri Satyavrata Muni, who's the author of the Damodarastakam, is overwhelmed with incomparable, pure, loving devotion for Krishna. This is the meaning of the word prematas or premata. And offering his prayers, which is vandana, of adoration hundreds of times, sata avriti. So Sri Satyavrata Muni is offering vandana, prayers, again and again. And that's puna in Sanskrit. And to you, Damodar. Damodar is the name of Krishna, who is tied with the ropes of love around his belly. So, Vandana is the most important limb of bhakti, which is required for all devotees. So, there are 9 processes of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So one of them is Vandanam, is praying always to the Lord. And Akrura was always praying to the Lord. And, you have different personalities. There are example of each one of these points. However, here it's saying that Vandanam is one of the most important. They're all important, especially hearing and chanting, the first two. But Vandanam is also important because if you're praying always to the Lord, you're remembering the Lord, right? And not only you're remembering him fondly with love and devotion, and you're reciting prayers glorifying the Lord. So those prayers, you can see the Brahma Samhita prayers glorifying the Lord, the Purusha Sukta prayers glorifying the Lord, the Vishnu Sahasranam Sotram is glorifying the Lord, the prayers of Indra after he surrendered to the Lord is glorifying the Lord, the prayers of Dhruva Maharaj is glorifying the Lord, the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj are glorifying the Lord, the prayers of Yudhisthira Maharaj glorifies the Lord. So the prayers of Parikshit Maharaj glorifies the Lord. And before anybody asks anything of the Lord, they always glorify his qualities. And then they make some, wish or desire. So this repeating over and over again one's respectful obeisances to the Lord with devotion is very, very important in the life of a devotee. And it brings the Lord or Krishna under the control of his devotees by the super excellence of their devotion. And therefore, such a condition can never come about through Aishvarya Jnana, or knowledge of his divine majesty. This alone is the mood of the devotee offering this specific prayer. So basically it's saying that if one is Sadahari, the Lord becomes very, very, let's say, attracted to the devotee. So who was Sadahari? Harivilas Thakur. He was always chanting Hare Krishna, even when he was being beaten by the Muslims in 21 or 22 marketplaces so that they could kill him. He wasn't dying, and he wasn't showing any symptoms of suffering. And it shocked the two Muslim beaters, and then they begged him. They said, "Look, our Chankazi," he said that, I don't know if Chankazi was, the Kazi said that we have to kill you, but you're not dying, and if we don't kill you, he's going to kill us. And Harivilas Thakur said, "Oh my God, I don't want you to suffer anything. Okay, I'll die so you can accomplish your goal." And he went into a state of samadhi, which is very similar to death. And the Qazi came, the Muslim ruler came to make sure he was dead, and he sort of poked him and kicked him a little bit, and then he was convinced he was dead. So he said, "Throw that kafir into the river." So they threw him into the river. I think it was the Ganges, and he went down. He floated downstream, and then came out when he was out of sight of the Muslims. And then that night, he went to the Qazi's house and knocked on the door, and he opened the door, and he was like, he thought he was seeing a ghost. It was the person that he tested to see if he was dead, and he was dead, and he was shocked. And Harivilas Thakur said, "You should never, never do this again to any devotee." And he said, No, I won't do it again. I promise you. And but Harivilas Thakur was puzzled because he was beaten, and they were, severely beating him, but he wasn't feeling any pain, and he was wondering why this happened. So he went to see Lord Chaitanya, who was his worshipable deity, but Lord Chaitanya, was present at that time, and he went to see him. And when he saw him, Lord Chaitanya turned his back to him, and he took his shutter off, and he could see that all the wounds that he was receiving were actually received by the Lord. So here's another example of how the Lord subordinates himself to his devotee, because the devotee is always thinking of the Lord with love and devotion. So the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, when chanted properly, is an expression of love and devotion for the Lord. And let me read something now in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, first canto, chapter 8, verse number 26. My Lord, your lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. Cannot approach you with sincere feeling. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth and education and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences, and this is known as the advancement of material civilization. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him feelingly. O Govinda, O Krishna. It is said in the Shastras that by once uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins able to commit. In other words, past lifetimes and in this lifetime. Such is the power of uttering the holy name of the Lord. There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. Sorry. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency, but there is a quality to such utterances also. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but he is incapable of uttering the name in quality, with sincere feeling and with sincere, complete dependence on the Lord. Therefore, the four principles of material advancement, namely high parentage, good wealth, high education, and attractive beauty, are, so to speak, disqualifications for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. They are disqualifications. The material covering of the pure spirit soul is an external feature, as much as fever is an external feature of the unhealthy body. The general process is to decrease the degree of the fever and not to aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. This is no discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign, as much as the falling of temperature is a good sign. The principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, which leads one to be more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Grossly illusioned persons are quite unfit for entrance into the kingdom of God. Well, there's a similar thought like this in the Bible. When a very wealthy man approached Jesus Christ and he said, "My Lord, what does it take to enter into the kingdom of your Father?" And Jesus said, "Verily I say unto you, that you must go back to your home and give away all your wealth, and then you can enter into the kingdom of God. And in the Bible it describes how when the very wealthy man heard what Jesus said, he put his head down and walked away in a somber mood, knowing very well that he was incapable of giving away all his wealth, and therefore would not be able to enter into the kingdom of God. So that's a more, let's say, brutal type of example, but it's in the Bible. But he's saying also the same thing here, that a helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. So, let's say you or I was in an airplane going somewhere in the world, and the pilot announces that the airplane, he's lost control of the airplane, and it's going down. And he says, if you have a prayer, please say it now. So, would you pray like this? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh my God, my 401k went up. That's really good. Hare Krishna, and my credit score is like 860, which is the top credit score. This is really good. And Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. And my wife and I, we're going to go on this big vacation. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And so, if you're chanting like that, right, you are chanting Hare Krishna, but the feeling of the chanting is not really full of love and devotion. It's with great material satisfaction. See? So, therefore, a helpless man can feeling, if the plane is going down, then his chanting would change. Say, hey Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, please save me. So his chanting would have a lot more feeling to it than chanting in a very, let's say, distracted way. So a helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but he is incapable of uttering the name in quality. Okay. So then, in this first canto, 8th chapter, next verse, 27th verse, Queen Kunti says, my obeisances are unto you, she's talking to Krishna, who are the property of the materially impoverished. Now, what does that mean? So this verse says, Namo kinchana vitaya nivrita guna vritaye atmaramaya santaya kaivalya pataye nama. My obeisances are unto you who are the property of the materially impoverished. What's another way of saying materially impoverished? It says gochara. What is it? Akinchana gochara. Akinchana. Someone is akinchana. He has nothing. He has nothing to call his own except his bead bag and his beads, and he's chanting the holy name with that in mind, that is completely dependent on the Lord. There's nothing that he has that he considers of any value. The only value in his life is chanting the name of the Lord and glorifying the Lord. So akinchana gochara, he's destitute in the eyes of others. Hey, this guy's a failure. Just like Jesus Christ, in the eyes of King Herod and all these, all the Jewish priests who were condemning him, saying that he was claiming to be the Messiah or the King of Israel, and when the Romans were in charge of Israel at that time, right? So they were looking at Jesus being dragged through the street, carrying this gigantic, heavy cross that they were going to nail him to and kill him on. He looked like a complete failure. a material failure, right? He had no money. He just had a loincloth. They put a crown to make fun of him. He's the king of the Jews. So to make fun of him, they put a crown of thorns on his head, and he's bleeding, right? And going through the streets, and people are making fun of him and spitting on him. And they eventually get this high place, and they nail him. They put nails through his hands and his feet to nail him. They didn't tie him to the cross. They nailed him to the cross. And you know how painful that is to put a nail through your. I mean, it's not a little nail either; it's a big, thick nail. And so he was considered a failure. But yet, he called out to his father. Father, he said at one point, "Why have you abandoned me?" So, but he was still, supplicating his father. And but he followed his father's order. His father said, "You're going to be crucified." And Jesus was confused. Why? Why you want to do this to me? But then he said, "But it's not what I want, my Lord. It's what you want that I will do." He said that on the mountain of Gethsemane. And then it actually happened. He's nailed to the cross. And then when he asked for some water, they gave him vinegar. And to make sure he was dead, they stuck a lance into his ribs to make sure he was dead. So this looks like a failure. And then they take his body and they throw it into a cave, and they put a big rock at the door of the cave so no one can go in. And then they hear from the guards who were guarding the cave so no one would even approach it. Then they hear that he miraculously revived from the dead, pushes the rock away, comes out, and walks away. And the two guards are, they fainted out of fear. What's going on here? He's dead, but he resurrected from the dead. And he stayed 40 days walking around and instructing his disciples. And then the disciples saw him go up to heaven in the body. And one of his disciples doubted that he was actually Jesus. He thought he was an imposter. So Jesus let him stick his finger. This is Thomas. He's called the doubting Thomas. Stick his finger into the womb, into the wound that he had on his side, where the Roman soldiers had stuck a lance into. And then he was shocked. He said, "You are the Jesus," So there's a lot of interesting things in the history of Jesus Christ. So he's saying here, "My obeisances are unto you who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are master of the monists." So, in the purport, Prabhupada writes, "A living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be, in the real sense of the term, a renouncer. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, and others gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity for the sake of the service of the Lord. They were big men in the worldly sense. The Goswamis were ministers in the government service of Bengal, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was the son of a very big zamindar of his time. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. The devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord." There is a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. He had a touchstone, and this stone was left in a pile of refuse and trash. A touchstone is whatever you wish, you get. So if you wish gold, you'll get gold. If you wish fame, you'll get fame, right? So he had a stone like it, but he threw it in the trash. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. He therefore asked Sanatana Goswami for the most valuable thing, because if he threw this touchstone in the trash, he must have something more valuable. You get rid of one thing for something better. So he was a smart man. He said, if you threw it in the trash, there must be something better than this. Although I think this is the best thing, but he must have something better. He therefore asked Sanatana Goswami for the most valuable thing, and then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Akinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only proprietor of a factual devotee. He is the only property of a factual devotee. So, Akinchana Gochara means that he has nothing material, but the Lord is his property, and he can give the Lord to anyone. He therefore, so a factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a factual devotee, meaning Krishna is the only property of the factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatana Goswami, which was thrown in the rubbish, was not the property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. So, in order to preach, you have to see the difference between what is spiritual and what is material. So to demonstrate that, the Sanatana Goswami had a touchstone. A touchstone is probably the most valuable thing anyone could ever have, because whatever you want, you can get from the touchstone. But he threw it away because he was not interested in anything material. Because he had something better. You don't throw something so valuable away unless you have something better. It's just like, let's say you have gold bullion hidden in your house, and it's worth $45 million, right? And you take it and you throw it out in the street, and whoever comes can take whatever they want. So you would be considered crazy. So that was what seemed to be to that person who wanted this touchstone, that he thought, well, either he's crazy or he's got something much better. So he went back. He knew he wasn't crazy because he's Sanatana Goswami. You know, he's a wonderful person and very, very pragmatic. He built the first temple in modern times in Vrindavan, the Madan Mohan temple. It's a gorgeous temple, right? So he's not a crazy guy. He knew how to speak Sanskrit. He knew how to speak Farsi. He knew how to speak Arabic. He knew how to speak Urdu. He knew how to speak Hindi. He was highly educated, and he used to be a member of Hussein Shah's, who was the king of Bengal at that time. Bengal is a very rich place. It has so many opulences at that time. So he was not a crazy guy. So he knew he must have something more valuable. And what does he give him? Well, he said, in order for me to give you something more valuable, first you have to take the touchstone on the bank of the Yamuna and throw it as far as you can into the river, meaning he would never see it again. So he hesitated, but then he thought, no, I have to trust him because he is Goswami. He's not going to cheat me. He's not like a bunya that'll cheat me, you know. So he goes on the bank of the Yamuna, throws it as far as he can into the river, which means he'll never get it back again. And then he comes back and sits down, and he gives him the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is more valuable than the touchstone. Why? Because with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you can get Krishna. And with the touchstone, you can get gold, you can get wine, you can get women, but that's nothing compared to Krishna. See? So, it says here, unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. So sometimes, even someone like Sanatana Goswami who has perfect spiritual vision, he set the example. He came down voluntarily lower and showed the difference between material opulence and spiritual opulence. Advancement of material vision or spiritual civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living being in the bondage of a material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha, or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick at a cost of, sometimes they sell, you buy Lancome or Givenchy or any of those very high-class products. It can cost, one thing of lipstick can cost $50. And you can go to the dollar store and buy lipstick made in China for $1. Is that right, Prabhu? Yes. So it's saying here, in the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick. And there are so many other unwanted things which are all products of the material conception of life. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because even if the moon is reached, the problems of life will not be solved. Yeah, because you can die on the moon just like you can die on the earth. So you didn't solve any problem. The devotees of the Lord are called akinchanas because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. They foil spiritual energy, and thus the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance for spiritual progress. Oh my God, this is completely opposite of the American dream. I come up from Italy, and I have a nothing. And now I have a Cadillac. I have 3 Cadillacs, and I have 4 houses. And I have so much money in the bank. This is the American dream. Right? I came with nothing, and now I have all these things. See? Wait a minute. Here's saying that's actually a disadvantage. It's not an advantage. It's disqualifying yourself from making any spiritual advancement. See? So, now, I diverted a little bit too much, and time is running out. So I'm going to explain something. I'll go straight to what I wanted to also talk about today. So this sort of ends the third verse of the Damodarastakam. And now we go to the fourth. Varam deva mokshamna mokshavadim va nachanyam vrineham varisada piha idam te vapurnata gopala balam sadame manasya virastam kimanyai. O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon which may be obtained by executing the 9 processes of bhakti, O Lord, I simply wish that this form of yours as Bala Gopala in Vrindavan may ever be manifest in my heart. For what is the use to me of any other boon besides this? So, up until now, the Satyavata Muni has been glorifying the Lord, glorifying his qualities. But now, we're going to get to the gist of this whole thing, is what he wants from the Lord. He definitely wants something, but you don't approach the Lord and say, give me this. You approach the Lord by glorifying his transcendental qualities, and then very humbly make your submission. See? So, what is his submission? Well, Varam Deva, so this is the beginning. Varam Deva, O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, till now, Sri Satyavata Muni has been praising Lord's various excellences. In this verse, the 4th verse, and in the next verse, the 5th verse, Sri Satyavata Muni begins to pray to obtain Varam, his most cherished object. Deva means, O supremely effulgent one. Or it also implies, O Lord, engaged in super excellent sweet pastimes. In this verse, Sri Satyavata Muni is not desiring the 3 most sought benedictions. Go ahead. Moksham, na mokshavadim va. I do not pray to you for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha. Oh my God, this is shocking. If the Sri Vaishnavas hear this, they're going to be shocked. What? You're not interested in going to Vaikuntha? But there's nothing beyond Vaikuntha, because they have canceled Vaikuntha, just like the Mayavadis cancel the Goloka and Vaikuntha. They accept Brahman. But the Sri Vaishnavas cancel Goloka, and they only want Vaikuntha. They also cancel, right? So, hearing and engaging in Damodarastakam would be a shock for them, because here, Satyavata Muni rejects attaining Vaikuntha. Although Vaikuntha is in the spiritual world, and as it is internal, but the relationship, see, everything is based on relationship. And there are 5 desirable relationships with God or Krishna. There's neutrality, there is servitorship, there is friendship, there's parental relationship, and there's conjugal relationship. Well, Vaikuntha, one can only experience the lower servitorship and the lower form of friendship. Beyond that, one can experience a higher form of friendship, and then beyond that, the parental relationship, and beyond that, the conjugal relationship, in which all the relationships, all the previous 4, are also experienced, right? So, does this mean there's something wrong with Vaikuntha? No, there's nothing wrong with Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is perfect in every way. But just like there's sweet, sweeter, and sweetest, there are different degrees of relationship with the Lord in the eternal world. And superior is the relationship of the friendship with Krishna, meaning the Gopas. They have a friendship with Krishna, right? They're not servants of the Lord. They consider themselves equal or greater than the Lord. And sometimes they get on the back of the Lord, and they have these fights. You know, somebody gets on Balaram's back, someone gets on Krishna's back, and then they have a fight. And Krishna and Balaram are serving their devotees as their support. So those are and the person on top of the Lord, he thinks he's superior to the Lord. See? And Krishna loves that because he wants to serve his pure devotee. Okay. And then above that, there's this relationship of Mother Yasoda with Krishna, where he's afraid of her. Fear is afraid of Krishna, but Krishna is afraid of Mother Yasoda. This is unbelievable, right? And she's able to tie him. Well, no one can tie Krishna. No one can catch him. But yet, he surrenders to his mother because of her complete love for him. So this is a very relishable relationship. So it says, Sri Satyavata Muni is not praying for freedom from material suffering, impersonal liberation or moksham, or the highest among the purusharthas, the four goals of human life, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. He's not praying for that. Nor is he praying for mokshavadim, the highest supreme zenith means the highest, of liberation in the form of eternally living in Sri Vaikuntha Loka. He's not asking any of these. So go ahead. What is he asking? Not chanyam, nor any other benediction or boon which may be obtained by executing the 9 processes of bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. He's not asking for any of those things. The 3 benedictions referred to reflect an ascending level of superiority. You know, it's going like that. It's like staircases going up. The superiority of Vaikuntha to liberation explained in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita Uttarakanda 1.14 and 15, and the superiority of devotion to Vaikuntha Loka is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.15.49. Well, superiority doesn't mean the one lesser is worse or bad. It just means that there are different degrees of the sweetness of the rasa, of the relationship. Just like the relationship of a mother to a child is sweeter than the relationship of friendship with Krishna. This goes farther, much farther than friendship, right? And the relationship of the gopis with Krishna, especially Radharani, is even sweeter than Mother Yasoda's relationship. And Mother Yasoda's relationship with Krishna is sweeter than Devaki Mata's relationship with Krishna, because she was not able to see his childhood pastimes. He was taken away right away. And then Devaki, she had to see 6 of her children killed by Kamsa, which is horrible. Whereas Kunti Devi, because she was always, in trouble, but her sons were never killed. So, why? Because Devaki, she was a queen, and her husband was a king. So, but Kunti was a single parent. Her husband was dead. So Krishna gave her more protection. Why? Because she was more dependent. At least Devaki had a husband, right? But Kunti didn't. And she had to raise her kids without a husband. So Krishna gave her more attention because she needed it. And she realized that she needed it. And she depended on Krishna more. So this dependence on the Lord, the position of a devotee is determined by how much they depend on the Lord, how much they recognize the subordination to the Lord. So someone who's puffed up with riches and fame and beauty and education, they feel independent. And they're puffed up. See? But the devotee feels completely dependent on the Lord. And then the Lord reciprocates with those who are akinchana gokchara, completely devoid of any material assets. So the Lord gives special attention to those devotees because they're completely dependent on the Lord. So then we come to Kim Anyay. For what is the use to me of any other boon besides this? this. He's going to explain what this means. So liberation, residence in Vaikuntha, and eligibility to engage in Navada Bhakti are also exceedingly worthy and rare benedictions. Why not accept them as well? Krishna is personally addressing this issue. In reply, Sri Satyavrata Muni says, Kim Anyay, of what use to me are these three boons, although eagerly sought after by others? Krishna himself is the essence of all bliss. If one attains him, then everything is attained. Yeah. Right. So, Vrineham Varisad Apiya Idam Teva Purnata Gopala Balam. O Lord, now Satyavrata Muni is getting to the main point. I simply wish that this form of yours as Bala Gopala in Vrindavan remain in my mind. So he says, the meaning is, because I am in Vrindavana, I do not have the slightest desire to accept all these other benedictions. What boon does Sri Satyavrata Muni want? O Lord, this form of yours as a cowherd child in Vrindavan, which I have just described, with his beautiful locks of hair and his childhood pastimes, and especially this one where he's tied up by Mother Yasoda. He wants to always remember this. The surme, the kajal that's dripping down his cheeks out of fear and the tears coming out of his eyes. He wants to remember this forever. And this is all he wants. So this is a very special thing. It's very hard for most people to understand, because if they have any attachment to the material world, they don't want to understand this. They don't want to be a kinchana gochara, completely destitute. But these words, it becomes evident that the 9 processes of devotion, beginning with Shravana, can be perfected even while living in hell, wherever one is, and in whatever condition of life one thereby experiences the perfection of living in the eternal abode of Vaikuntha. So this is saying that when he said, I'm not even interested in the boons that I can get from the 9 processes, any other boons I could get besides elevation to Vaikuntha or liberation. I'm not even interested in any boons I could get from these practicing the 9 processes of devotional service. Why? Well, because the only thing that Satyavrata Muni wants is to always have fixed in his mind forever this scene of Krishna completely subordinating himself to his mother, and with tears in his eyes and fearfulness, accepting to be tied up by his mother, because that tying up is tying up the Lord through love and devotion. It's the only way you can tie him up. So, this being the case, then what boon does he want? The answer is given in this 4th verse of Damodarastakam. Hey Nata, hey Lord, Iha idam teva pur gopala balam, O Lord, this form of yours as a cowherd child of Vrindavan, sadame manasi avirastam, may such a form ever be manifest in my mind. Since he is antaryami, situated as the indwelling supersoul, he may be seen manifesting the divine beauty of his every limb within one's heart, just as clearly as one sees directly with the eyes. So, there's inner reality in the heart of everyone, is the presence of Krishna as Paramatma. But he can also manifest his intimate pastimes in Goloka, in the heart of the devotee. If the devotee purifies his senses through devotional service, then he develops this spiritual vision. And Satyavrata Muni is saying, I would only be satisfied with this vision in my mind always of the Lord in this position of complete subordination to his mother. So, another meaning is, again, the Lord may ask, even though you do not pray for the boons beginning with moksham, would you care then for the boon of directly seeing and conversing with my supremely worshipable four-armed form of Sri Narayana and other Aishwarya Maya Murtis? The answer remains the same. Kimanyai. Other boons are useless to me. The intention behind this is, if your divine form of a cowherd child, which is the crest jewel of all splendors, would always be manifest in my heart, then I would feel very, very pleased. Nothing short of this will satisfy me. This is the mood. Right? This is the mood. So therefore, one has to go to the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is another very exalted scripture. And therein, the sage Sri Pipalayana on the planet of Chapaloka has explained all these principles very elaborately. Now, the Damodarastakam prayer offered by Satyavrata Muni similarly demonstrates that the longing for inner darshan is the best goal of all. Inner darshan. Just like everybody has inner darshan. One person is remembering, oh, when I first got married, my wife was completely surrendered to me, and she would do anything I wanted. But now, she doesn't listen to anything I say, and she criticizes everything I do, So in his dreams, in his mind, he's always thinking how wonderful it was then. So people have inner darshan. Everybody has inner darshan. The wife is saying, oh, before I had children, I had so much freedom. Now I have 5 kids. All day long I'm washing clothes, and I'm cooking, and I'm cleaning, and I have to go take this one to soccer and that one to Bharatnatyam dance. And, this driving me crazy. It's all this, I mean, I love my children, but I don't have any time for myself. And so she's remembering, when I was not married, I had so much freedom. I was able to do knitting and play soccer myself, and this thing and that thing. So you see, everybody has inner darshan. But if that inner darshan is remembering this pastime Radha and Krishna of Mother Yashoda and Damodar, and seeing the Damodar tied up by his mother's love. So now Damodarastakam prayer offered by Satyavrata Muni similarly demonstrates that the longing for inner darshan is the best goal of all. From this prayer, all these things can be clearly understood. Thus ends Sanatana Goswami's Digdarshan Yatika or explanation on the 4th sloka of Shri Damodarastakam. So the last point I want to make, and this is very profound, that is one second. Oh, I'm in the wrong book. So, in the case of Maharaj Parikshit, he knows he's going to die in 7 days. And to prepare himself for death, he gave up everything. His kingdom, his wealth, his family. And he accepted hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Maharaj Parikshit. And during that 7-day period where he was hearing and asking questions, he didn't eat, he didn't sleep. And so it says here, it is the duty of the sane person to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a self-realized soul and not be duped or cheated by professional men. One should continue such hearing till the end of one's life, so that one can actually have the transcendental association of the Lord and thus be liberated simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So you should never hear Srimad Bhagavatam by the professional reciters, the ones that invite you to Bhagavatam Sattva, Saptapah, the 7-day recitation of Bhagavatam by professional reciters, because they're doing it for money, not really to help people become detached from material things. They themselves are not detached, so how can they convince another person to be detached? So they just tell stories, and they jump quickly to the 10th canto, and everyone is eager to hear it because it supports their sense gratification. They don't get purified by hearing it. It makes them more determined for sense gratification. Oh, Krishna is dancing with the gopi. I'm going to dance with my gopi tonight. So this is nonsense, right? They don't get purified. They get more contaminated. So then it says, one should continue hearing Bhagavatam till the end of one's life. That means every day of one's life, right up to the last day, one should hear Srimad Bhagavatam, so that one can actually have the transcendental association of the Lord. The Bhagavatam is Krishna's incarnation in the age of Kali. This is the verse, 2nd canto, 8th chapter, 4th verse. Shravanam Shradaya Nityam Grinatascha Swachestitam Kalena Natidiggena Bhagavan Vishate Hridi. Persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly, meaning every day, and are always taking the matter very seriously, will have the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna manifested in their hearts within a short time. So then it says, Maharaj Parikshit had already given up all his connections with his kingdom and family, the most attractive features of materialism. Yeah, he was a king. He had a huge kingdom, and he was very powerful, and he had a wonderful family, beautiful kids, beautiful wife, and wonderful extended family, his grandson of the Pandavas. And he himself was very attractive. So he had everything desirable. He gave it all up. But still, he was conscious of his material body. He wanted to be free from such bondage also by the constant association of the Lord. So after giving up everything, but still he was attached to the bodily concept somewhat, thinking, this is my body. So how can he die thinking of Krishna if he's attached to the body? He'll take birth again. If you're attached to anything, he'll take birth again, anything material. So, in the purport, Prabhupada says something very important. He says, cheap devotees or materialistic devotees of the Lord are very much desirous to see the Lord personally without meeting the requisite qualifications to see the Lord. Those are called cheap devotees or materialistic devotees. Now, these are the words of Prabhupada now. This is his purport. Such third-grade devotees should know well that material attachment and seeing the Lord face to face cannot go together. It is not such a mechanical process that the professional Bhagavatam reciters can do the job on behalf of the third-grade materialistic pseudo-devotees. Pseudo means false devotees. So these professional reciters of Bhagavatam cannot do the job, cannot help them lose their attachment to the material conception of life and become thoroughly attached to Krishna. They can't do it. Nor can the cheap devotee or false devotee do it. The professional men are useless in this connection because they are neither self-realized nor interested in the liberation of the audience. They are simply interested in maintaining the material establishment of family attachment and earning some material benefits out of the profession of reciting Bhagavatam. Maharaj Parikshit had no more than 7 days to live, but for others, Maharaj Parikshit personally recommends that one hear Srimad Bhagavatam every day, nityam, always by one's own effort and with serious devotion also. That will help one to see the Lord, Shri Krishna, manifested in one's heart within no time. So you will have this inner darshan if you do hear Bhagavatam spoken by genuine devotees every day of your life up until the last day. That's what Maharaj Pariksit did. He was hearing to the last day, and he was very interested. He stopped eating and sleeping and prepared for death. Usually people who want to die, they stop eating. Great devotees will do that. Prabhupada did that also. But even people who are not devotees, they lose the desire to eat, and they get determined to die. Many, many people die like that. They become emaciated, and they look like a skeleton when they die. They stopped eating voluntarily because of disgust or because of frustration or whatever. But great devotees also do that, not because of disgust or anything like that, so that they do not have any attachment to the body at the moment of death. And so Maharaj Pariksit was worried that he might still be attached to his material body, and therefore he wanted to be free of such bondage also by the constant association of the Lord. You constantly get the association of the Lord by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So we'll stop right there. So we finish the fourth verse, right? Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, well, you want to say? Okay. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Did I scare you? The American dream is completely, pulverized. You'll never find it again. My Italian impersonation shattered. Gangsters come to America because there's more money to steal in America than in Italy. That's why.
Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupam